Welcome to another episode of the No Followers podcast.
There's no energy in that opening. Holy
I'm
crap,
losing my
you're
voice.
right?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay. My voice is going out the window.
It's all that impressionistic
It
accent.
was all my spot-on accents I was doing before the cameras were rolling. Welcome to another episode, No Followers podcast. Bob T, where we give you bite-sized insights into the entrepreneurial journey.
Specific to
Manufacturing. Yeah.
And manufacturing.
There's a lot to cram in there.
I still got to get rid of the bite size.
You're very down on bite size.
It's just dumb.
I think it is an apt descriptor.
Your dog's name is Tig.
Yeah, that's a good name. He's a shop dog. Ish. Kind of, sometimes.
He's never here.
That's because he doesn't do good with strangers. He doesn't like new people. I
feel special.
He gets social anxiety.
So do I. What the hell?
I'm his emotional support animal.
I love it. I can get you a little vest.
He walks me through the airport. The reason for our journey here today is we're talking about the difference between raising money, raising capital, and revenue. Because I think far too often people conflate the two, especially with startups, where as a startup, you're like, all right, I have an idea, I'm going to raise money, and then blah, 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 blah. And the fact is that, if you are going to raise money, there are good and bad ways to do it. There are good and bad mechanisms, depending on where you're at. That could be a million podcasts just about that. But in my opinion, raising money is a tool to get to revenue.
But this also comes up a lot with our incubator clients. Like, their answer a lot of times is, oh, we'll just go raise money to build the manufacturing scale. And we're like, no, because we don't know what manufacturing scale we're building to. Like, we don't know yet. So raising money gets us where.
And do you need to?
Well, that's our thing. We love traction. I don't like raising money until I already have customers, because that gives me leverage in the negotiation with funders. Yeah. And it's always a negotiation. I don't care how good they are. Yeah. They're trying to get more, and I'm trying to give less, and somewhere in the middle makes the most sense for all of us. But yeah, I mean, people, the media, I mean, the whole sexiness of being an entrepreneur, which has only happened in the last 10 years or so, because when I came out as an entrepreneur, people were like, you don't have a job.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right.
Borderline homeless, yeah.
Could still be. I kind of live in the shop. I feel good.
Yeah.
Tig's bed is now my bed.
Yeah,
look at that.
Hey, listen, it's a community. It's an entrepreneurial ecosystem in this shop, you know?
But before all the sexiness of entrepreneurship and how everybody can attain it, which is another pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
Though I don't have any. That might be a rant.
You should come on my new segment, T's Pet Peeves.
I might have to, yes. The Bobcast. I'm just going to keep using it. I think people have fallen in love with the raise as being a successful business. And no offense to people raising money, a lot of the companies I see raise a lot of money aren't here a year later, because they don't have a business model, they don't have clients, and they have no sustainable revenue. So we'd rather try to get that revenue first, even if it's a little amount. I know it's not sexy, right? Once again, are we going for sexy, or we're going for longevity? Are we trying to create a real business, a real product? So, I mean, I think that mindset has to go away first. And if you can't find one client, and something In Focus Brands is really focused on, first check, first client. We're not sitting, and we have a VC arm, right? We're not saying we have to go raise money first. We're saying first check, first client is our goal as a startup. And I think if that became the norm, a lot of these very, on a certain level, waste of capital companies wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Well, and having honest conversations about how to raise capital and who has successfully raised it and made money on that capital. Like, as you know, when we first started working together, I thought that I should be raising capital, and got to the point of having a few smaller offers and all this. And we had some very frank conversations about smart money versus hard money, and whether or not it was a necessary thing to do and all this stuff. And we at Fabro wound up going a different route. And so I've never successfully fundraised. So I could sit here and tell you theoretically my views on it, but you should be discounting every opinion I give you if you are seriously trying to raise money, because I've never done it. Versus, and it's not to say that my fundamental theories and concepts aren't sound. It's just that there is some real world application that can come from someone like you who has successfully done it and who has also done it in ways that has bit you in the rear end before and has not.
Well, I think that goes back to some of our earliest conversations that we've had and we've shared here is there's nothing wrong with the theory of something. It's, I'm going to use my favorite word for the week again.
Yeah.
Deconstructed.
Sure.
Right?
Deconstruct it.
Deconstructing that idea into practical and applicable ways of doing it, and if it matters or makes sense to what you're trying to do. And when we first talked about you trying to raise money, we didn't even know what you were selling.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so raising money on an idea of an idea,
right,
for me doesn't make any sense. And I know people do it, right? Yeah. I didn't see the value in knowing your skill sets. I was like, but you have so many of the tools to make it tangible before you go raise money.
Yeah. Well, and that was even a similar conversation that I had with some doctorate level engineers about, we were going through and getting pricing for, all right, let's engineer every detail of the suspension system. Well, because of this, this, and this, we have to start from scratch with a new model because there's no models that exist that blah, blah, blah. So we were looking at $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to just do some of the basic engineering on it. And then it was the engineers that said to me, you know, if you have the ability to just build it, you could build it and then just test it and go from there. And it again comes back to the right resources and the right time for your skill set, for your product, for your business. And so I think there's a lot to be said for that. But the other thing with fundraising and with capital that always comes back for me is, and this is again a personal belief, I have some real problems with some of the valuations that exist right now in the world. Some of the multiples that are being used, I think, are insane. And I think that the companies will never realize that value. They'll never realize that projected valuation.
You always talk about the greater fool model,
Yeah.
right? And I don't believe in that because I think that ruins the future relationships that could be. Some of our longest term clients, we had phenomenal failures with early on, but we're always brutally honest and the communication is always sacrosanct to us, right? We're going to tell you exactly what's going on, what went wrong, right? It's your money, it's our money, right? We're in this together. So, you know, if you're looking at raising money, you have to think of the long road. And I always gave you a lot of credit from the earliest times we met is you had such a long-term view of what you were going to build and do. You weren't like, I'm going to exit in a year. Like, you know, we've been in meetings together. We're like 12 months, you know, I'm going to raise 5 million now. And in 12 months, I'm going to exit at 300 million.
Yeah. Good luck.
I was like,
yeah.
All right. I don't think I said good luck, but yes.
You definitely didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't use that term, but so I also think it's about realism and not being kind of have a lot of smoke blown your way because people do that. People are going to blow smoke because they want their metrics to be better. I need more people in this program. I need, right? Because that's how I get paid. Always follow the money.
Right. 100%.
Right. And that's always an issue, I think. And it's an issue because people don't look deep enough or don't have the right conversations because they also want to just be sold a bag of goods that make it look so easy.
Everyone wants the Netflix win. I mean, that's the VC model, right? 1 in 10, right? 1 in 10 needs to, 9 can lose if number 10 is a grand slam.
That's a pet peeve. I got a lot of pet peeves now.
Yeah.
I can't stand everybody has to hit a home run, right?
Yeah.
There's most of the Hall of Fame of baseball are by people that did not hit home runs.
Well, I mean, that's the whole money ball, which you could argue whether or not that's actually a winning strategy. But
yeah, I don't think that's a winning strategy.
But I mean, the theory of it is a theory that, more of what I'm behind, and I know that you are with the VC arm of what you do, which is if you can have a solid company that year over year performs well and consistently, that's a win because that funds your operations year over year, no problem.
Yeah, but that also goes back to what is the goal of where you're taking the money. Going back to the original concept you started here, right? Revenue versus fundraising. You better know what their model is for their funding because most VCs are like, I'm out of your company within 3 years, regardless if you want or
Yeah,
not. And we've had local VC firms that have literally sold companies outside or under the management team because they had to get out of their investment. So that's really important. That's the due diligence that the company has to do at the investor. And we try to teach this in the incubator. You can take money, but you're also vetting them. You can't just sit here and just beg.
Well, especially at a startup level, we call it pre-revenue or an angel level. In my opinion, you're an investor. If you do take money, they should be bringing either expertise or network with them as well. Because if it's just money, in my opinion, from what I've seen in my short time on this earth, if it's just money, it's probably not going to be enough. If you don't have...
There's always follow on.
If there's not something else. But the thing that's always in the back of my mind when it comes to investment or capital or anything is to avoid that whole greater fool theory of investing. For every dollar you take, in my mind, that dollar needs to somehow bring in $1.30 to $1.40. So if this whole thing where you go, we're going to do a pre-seed round, or we're going to do a seed round, pre-revenue round, and then we'll do a Series A, and then we'll do a Series B, and then we'll do a Series C. Well, at what point are you going to stop raising money and just be in revenue and be self-generating cash flow? It doesn't make sense to me unless you are setting up a chip, a semiconductor.
Well, there's a lot of
foundry.
technologies that take a long time to get commercialized, right?
But I think that a lot of companies see that pathway and they go, I've had conversations with startups who are trying to make physical hard goods that are not that intense to make. And they're talking about when they do their Series C. And it's something that, in my opinion, is not needed, especially because, again, if you take $1, you need to make $1.30 with it in order to get that return at some point.
Well, also, I think I'm not going to say most people are doing it just to make money and kind of run away. I think most people aren't discerning enough or don't understand. They look at a model and say that model must work for every business. And we know we have metal products, we have plastic products, we have products that are in cardboard, right? They're all different universes, even though it's still a hard good, right?
Yep.
That's with business models, right? That model of building a chip plant that you have to keep raising money for year over year, or new technologies. Like we do a lot in hydrogen, right? Yeah. And we've had hydrogen people on our podcast.
Yeah.
That's a long tail of technology for a lot of reasons.
Yep.
Okay, that's a different story than I'm building a service company. And we've talked to service companies trying to come through the incubator, which they don't fit because we don't do service here. But they're trying to raise money for a service business that you could literally get some equipment for maybe a few $1,000s and start on your own.
Yeah.
But they want to raise money.
Yeah. And I think part of it is because it's like this sexy thing. And I think a lot of the times it seems like, I can't speak for anyone else. I can speak for myself. Early on, the idea of raising money, it did feel a little bit like the finish line. Because you convinced someone that your idea was good enough to invest in, and they gave you money, and now you can cut yourself a paycheck. You can buy the equipment you need, you can get the space you need, all this stuff. It felt like a win. But that is just in the story of your company, like that's just the point where the rising action begins. That's all it is. The work is still ahead of you, and I think that's some of because you see the Googles and a lot of these things where they get investors or you get funding. What's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to build a campus. We're going to build a building with a lot of windows with no R factor, and it's going to be a nightmare to heat and cool, and it's going to be really sexy, though. All right, well, now you have a $40 million building. What are you doing with it? You took $40 million, you took $60 million. How are you now going to make $100 million with that? That building better be paying off per square foot.
Yeah, and I think the difference in our mindset is always... First check, first client is the sexiest because somebody's paying me to do what I want to do, right? The investment in our mind is always later when we've already validated our market space. And then the conversation is really about partnerships, not begging. Because I think people also try to raise money early because they're begging. They need money to continue, right? Some of the things that, you read books and like, go all in. Our first advice to somebody who wants to start a business is keep your day job.
Yeah.
Because the moment you stop that job, all you think about is the money you're not making.
Yep.
You're not even thinking about your new business. You are thinking about, I have no money. Yep. So figure out time. Going back to a busy podcast we did a few hours ago, right? Think about it as time blocking and hitting certain numbers first, and take that leap as late as possible. Because if you're just raising money so you can pay yourself, most investors aren't going to do that.
Yeah. And as well, they shouldn't. Like if you're going to be in development for another 5 years, again, is the runway equivalent to what the takeoff is going to be? If you got 5 years of runway and your burn rate is $1 million a year and your projected market is $200,000 a year, doesn't really make a ton of sense.
We'll just do the math.
Yeah.
25 years to pay it back.
Yeah. Follow
with
the
no
numbers.
profit.
Yeah. But
See how fast I did that, man?
yeah, you're good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm probably totally wrong on the math.
I bought it.
You bought it. I sold it well.
All right. Well, you want to wrap her up for now? Wrap her up.
Did we ever
Bite
start?
size? I guess. I don't know. Hopefully someone hit record.
Okay, we'll wrap.
All right. Thank you for listening, watching, and subscribing to No Followers Podcast. We'll see you next week.